Well, I'm back here again working on my 77 Chevy C10 pickup, and I got the new core support put on the truck. I actually got pretty lucky. I found this one on Craigslist locally here in Dallas. It's a brand new reproduction. I think it's a Chinese reproduction, but I got lucky. I ended up only paying 30 bucks for it, and it's all brand new, straight, and all I did was had some damage here on this lip. I just hammer and dollied, got that straightened out, but it's good, and I'll show you why I had to replace that. Here's my original core support, and you can see here why I had to replace it. It's upside down right now, leaning up against the fence. This is the passenger side, so it's right underneath the battery box. The battery box, the battery sits about right here. And this is pretty typical. You get rust underneath the battery box, and here's my inner fender. You see that thing's pretty much a goner. This is held on by nothing, and so yeah, that's why I had to replace it. Other than that, the rest of it was good, except for right there. So now I got the fender flipped over. This is the passenger side fender again, and here's the real reason for this video. We got some rust holes here on the rear lower edge of the fender, and I got a patch panel, and I'm gonna show you how to fix all that. Also up here at the front of the fender, got a real nasty dent there. You can see I sanded the fender down to bare metal in a lot of places. But you can see here we got a real nasty dent. If I get in maybe a little closer, hopefully the camera will focus, but there are some pinhole rust spots, and I need to get rid of those. So I'll get started on that, and I'll show you the process along the way. Also, I got some, here's a pinhole rust mark, and there's a couple more. They're not rusted through yet, but it's definitely rust on the back side, so I got to fix it. I'll pan out here. You can see that's on the top edge of the fender lip, and I'll fix that as well. So really the first step is determining how much you need to cut off. You can see I've sanded, like I said, I sanded a lot of this to bare metal, especially down here where I need to do the repair. And you know, the patch panel is, I'll walk over here and grab it. It's pretty darn big. You can see it, setting that in place. It covers quite a bit, but I don't need to do all that, so I don't need to repair all the way up to here, so I'm not going to. What I'm probably going to do is maybe just come straight across right at about here, because I know the rust is here. Generally you want to assume that the rust on the back side of the metal is 3 times the size of the hole that you can see on the front. So I'm assuming that the rust is going to go at least to there, and there's looks like one little pitted spot right there. So I'm going to go up to right about there and just cut it straight off. What you also need to do is find out where all your rosette welds are. And when you sand it, it's pretty easy to find them. There's one there, there's one there, and I think there's one right there. It's all in this crinkle area. That's factory. That's not because there's been in a wreck or anything. That's just how they come. There's one there. Then down here on the lower edge, you see there's one there, one there, one there, and one right there. So you need to come in, drill these out. There's also up here on the front, also easy to see, one there, one there, one there. Although I'm not going to go up this high. Probably not even going to drill that one out, but this one will need to get drilled, and I believe there's one right in that area. So I'll come in and I'll drill those out, and then I'll cut my fender. Okay, I've started drilling out the spot welds, and I wanted to show you something to look for when you're drilling out spot welds, and I really hope that you can see it, but you can see the shiny metal from where the drill bit was, and you see a little bit of rusty area in there. That's when you know that you've separated the two panels, when you see that little rust area. Over here, a lot of times, this is a different hole, it's right next to it. You'll see the little rust flakes, little kind of rusty metal coming out of there. Then that's also an indication. Here you also see, hopefully, the little bit of rusty area in there mixed in with the shiny metal. That's how you know that you've cut through the spot weld, and you can stop drilling. If you want, you can try and get that little rust ring to go all the way around. Usually you don't need to, because if you don't see it, it's not that big a deal, because that little piece of metal is going to be really thin and real easy to pop loose. So just something to look for if you've never drilled out spot welds before. So now I've got all the spot welds drilled out. Just two here on the edge of the fender. This is the door side of the fender. And I just marked my cut line with a piece of masking tape. I'm going to cut on the lower edge of the masking tape. And nothing fancy here, just a angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. And just a bit of a safety precaution here. I now like to use these fully enclosed goggles. You know, I've always worn eye protection, but even with regular sort of safety glasses that don't cover on the bottom and the top and the sides, even with that, I've gotten metal in my eye. And if you get metal in your eye, it's a big deal. You need to go to the ophthalmologist or optometrist, I can't remember which is which, and get that removed. Steel, iron, rust is toxic to your cornea, and you can lose your eyesight. And what sucks is it's about $500 to go and have a piece of metal dug out of your eye, and $500 really puts a dent in the parts for your project. So I've switched. I now like these fully enclosed safety goggles. These are just Harbor Freight goggles. They're like $5 and worth every penny. So just a bit of a safety note. Do what you want. Always wear eye protection, but I recommend using these sealed, fully enclosed eye protection goggles. And there you have it. Got the piece cut off. Wasn't that big of a deal. And just one thing to remember, try not to mangle up the piece that you cut off, because that is your template for making the new panel. Take it over to your new patch panel, and you line it up, and then you mark it, cut your panel, and that's at least your initial fit. It won't be your final fit. So anyway, when you cut this panel off, don't mangle it up too bad. I got to straighten it out a little bit here on the wheel edge, and maybe a little on this side. But other than that, it came off pretty clean. And as I mentioned before, I'll show you. Here's the low rust spot that we're trying to cure. And like I said, generally the rust on the back side is at least 3 times the size of what you can see on the front. And I'll show you that right here. And you can see how bad. I mean, that's more than, 3 times is just sort of a rule of thumb. That's a lot more rust than just 3 times the size of the hole. And it extends all down in here. I mean, it was only a matter of time before a little pinhole started poking through. You could stab a screwdriver through there and punch right through it. So, like I said, at least, when you're cutting out your panel, make sure you cut out more than enough, because the rust does extend pretty far out on the back side of the panel. So I'm going to end this video for now, and stick around for the next one where I mark the new patch panel, cut it, and weld it in place.